Hello, welcome to another video. My name's Paul and this is Paul Skype English. Today we're going to talk about variances in vocabulary within the UK itself. The UK is a very old country, and depending on which part of the UK you go to, depends on how they speak English. Sometimes the vocabulary can vary, sometimes the grammar can even vary a little bit. But today we're going to talk about vocabulary. This is informal vocabulary, but it's everyday vocabulary that we're going to talk about. The first example I'm going to give you is the word for an evening meal. Now, where I'm from in the UK, an evening meal would generally be eaten between maybe 6 o'clock and 7:30. And when I was young, I used to call that evening meal tea, T-E-A. Now, although I called it tea, it wasn't a cup of tea. It was food, okay? But when I was young, I would call it tea. And in large parts of the UK, they do call it tea, mostly in the north of the UK. In the south of the UK, the same meal, generally speaking, would be called dinner. So that's D-I-N-N-E-R, dinner. I would feel slightly uncomfortable calling it dinner, because naturally I want to call it tea, but as an English teacher I've got used to calling it dinner as well. Now, in certain parts of the UK, they also call the same meal supper, so S-U-P-P-E-R. Now, depending on whether it's tea, supper or dinner can depend on geography, so it depends where the person is within the country, and it can also depend on things like class, so it's quite a complicated subject. The next example I'm going to give you is very young vocabulary. Now, this would be used by young people. I couldn't use this vocabulary. I'm too old. It would sound silly if I used this vocabulary. But if you see something that is very good, you might know the expression, that's cool, or it's very good. Another way that it would maybe, another word that we could use in that situation, if you're from the north of the UK, is maybe the word sound. So S-O-U-N-D. So you could say, that's sound, that is sound, as in that's very good, that's very cool. If you're from the south of the UK, you might say, that's sick. That's very good, that's cool, that's sick. So S-I-C-K. Again, this is youth vocabulary and it can change very quickly. So by the time you actually try to use these expressions, they may have changed. The last one is related very much to British culture and British society. In the UK, we eat a lot of bread. And quite often when you eat bread, you're making a sandwich, which you'd have for your lunch. Now, a sandwich, quite often we would use what I would call a bread roll, which is about this big, and it's made of bread, and you cut it, and you fill it, and then you eat it. Okay. Now, in my part of the UK, I would call it a bread roll, or a bun, or even if I was putting chips in it, as in fried chips, like American fries, chips from the fish and chip shop, if I was putting chips inside it, I would call it a chip butty. So in my part of the UK, I could call it a roll, a bun, or a butty. In other parts of the UK, the same thing is called either a tea cake, a balm, a muffin, a cob, a bap. So there are many, many variations. So if you go to the UK and you spend some time there and you get an English friend or a Scottish friend or a Welsh friend or a friend from Northern Ireland, you could ask that person, what's this called? And show them what I would call a bun. And if there's 2 or 3 of them there, it might start a debate. They might disagree about what it's called, because bread is that important in British society. All right. If you've enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. You can also subscribe to the channel, and you can find us on Facebook and Naver Blogs. Thank you very much.